Good morning, Freedom Church. Let's go ahead and stand up, worship God together. For all the fathers out there, happy Father's Day. And let's just take this time to give our Father in heaven all the honor and glory. The sound of your name, Jesus. There is none more beautiful than Jesus. There is none more powerful. The risen Christ lifted high. Jesus now be glorified. Center my life on your name. From searching for lesser glory, turn my eyes and teach my heart with all your wisdom to live for heaven. Teach my heart, oh my God, forever you reign. The sounds of your name, Jesus. There is none more beautiful than Jesus. There is none more powerful. The risen Christ lifted high. Jesus now be glorified. Center my life on your name. The sounds of your name, Jesus. There is none more beautiful than Jesus. There is none more powerful. The risen Christ lifted high. Jesus now be glorified. The risen Christ lifted high. Jesus now be glorified. Jesus, there is none more beautiful than Jesus. There is none more powerful. The risen Christ lifted high. Jesus now be glorified. Center my life on your name.
Man, let's give it up for our Father in heaven. Give him another shout. Give him another praise. It's Father's Day. Let's look to our God today. And let's celebrate the dads, too. Everybody give a round of applause for the dads. Thank you guys so much for coming. We're so excited that we're launching today with 2 services. Come on, that's something to get excited about. Man, we missed you guys so much. This next song, it just talks about our Father and how he looks out for us, how he always has our back. How though it may seem like we're surrounded by conflict and chaos and storms, that he is indeed fighting our battles for us. Do you believe that today, church? Let's pray. Lord, we pray, God, that you would fix our mind, fix our heart on you, Jesus. The things of this world can be so big in our eyes, but God, you are bigger. The things in this world can seem so appealing, but God, you are our only fulfillment, Jesus. And God, we worship you today and we say, God, fight our battles. Amen. There's a table that you prepared for me in the presence of my enemies. It's your body and your blood you shed for me, 'cause this is how I fight my battles. There's a table that you prepared for me in the presence of my enemies. It's your body and your blood you shed for me, 'cause this is how I fight my battles. Oh, you believe it? And I believe you've overcome it. I will lift my song of praise for what you've done. 'Cause this is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. This is how this is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. This is how in the valley, you know that you're with me. And surely your goodness and your mercy follow me. So my weapons of praise and thanksgiving, 'cause this is how I fight my battles. Oh, and I believe you've overcome it. I will lift my song of praise for what you've done. 'Cause this is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. This is how this is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. Oh, this is how calling on your name is how I fight. Oh, Jesus, I call on your name. Oh, Jesus, there's no other name, no other God. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. Let's declare this today. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. 'Cause this is how I fight my battles. Yes, and I believe It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. Yes. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. Hey. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. This is how I find my battles. This is how I find my battles. Yeah. This is how I find my battles. Oh, this is how I find my battles. This is how I find my battles. This is how I find my battles. Oh, this is how it may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. Oh, your love may look like I'm surrounded. Oh, but I know the truth. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. 'Cause this is how I find my battles. Oh, Jesus, my battles. This is how I find my battles. This is how I find my battles. Oh, this is how this is how I find my battles. This is how I find my battles. Sing it out. This is how I find my battles. Oh, Jesus. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. Yes, Jesus. So I'm laying down my life, giving up control, never looking back. I surrender all. I'm living for your glory on the earth. Oh, this passion, this passion in my heart, stirring in my soul, to see the nations bow, for all the world to know I'm living for your glory on the earth. Oh, let's sing it out together. For the sake of the world, burn like a fire in me, light a flame in my soul for every eye to see. For the sake of the world, burn like a fire in me. Oh, Jesus, oh, Jesus, like a fire. This passion in my heart is stirring in my soul, to see the nations bow, for all the world to know I'm living for your glory on the earth. Oh, we're living for your glory. Yes. It's for the sake of the world, burn like a fire in me, light a flame in my soul for every eye to see. For the sake of the world, burn like a fire in me. Oh, Jesus, burn like a fire. For the sake of the world, burn like a fire in me, light a flame in my soul for see. For the sake of the world, burn like a fire in me. Oh, yes, Jesus, yes. For every knee to bow down, for every heart to believe, for every voice to cry out, burn like a fire in me. For every tongue to confess, you alone are the King, you are the hope of the earth. Burn like a fire. For the sake of the world, burn like a fire in me. Light a flame in my soul, for every eye to see. For the sake of the world, burn like a fire in me. Oh, yeah. For the sake of the world, burn like a fire in me. Light a flame in my soul, for every eye to see. For the sake of the world, burn like a fire in me. A fire in me. Like a fire in me. Light a flame in my soul, for every eye to see. For the sake of the world, burn like a fire in me. Jesus, that's our prayer. God, this world needs your light. This world needs your love. So God, fill us with your love. Fill us with your light. God, that we may love our neighbors. We may bring them to Christ. God, we worship you today, and we thank you. Amen. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. You may be seated. Turn your attention to the screens.
Good morning, Freedom Fam. We have a couple announcements for you. Starting July 5th, Kids Church will be returning for first service only. Registration opens June 29th, so make sure you head over to the Church Center app to reserve your spot. Here at Freedom Church, your giving and offerings not only impacts the community, but the world. We have 4 ways to give. You can text to give at 84321, online, through the Church Center app, as well as through the giving stations located at the back of the sanctuary. Lastly, we just want to wish all the great dads out there a happy Father's Day. To those watching online, as well as in person, take a look at the screens. We have something special for you.
Good morning, Freedom Church. Happy Father's Day to all the dads. If you're a dad, can you just raise your hand real quick? Can we give a round of applause for all the dads in here? We love you guys. We're thankful for everything you do. So because of that, we want to give away something special. This is the Weekend Warrior Battle Box. Take a look at it on the screens. It has this Battle Box kit. Also comes with a grill, portable. If you need to get away, throw it in your bug out bag. This thing is pretty sweet. I want to be a dad just so I can get that thing right there. That's the only reason. So, the way you can get this is by playing a game. Don't worry, you don't have to eat anything this morning. So do we have any dads that want to win this battle box? All right, let's get Javi. Who else? I can't see the hands. Mark, you want to play? You want to try it? Maybe? Maybe not? All right, what about Keith? Who else we got? Joel. All right, he whistled. That means he wants to come up here. Perfect, perfect. Come up on the stage, gentlemen. Fathers. Oh, yeah. We're excited about this. So what makes a super dad? We tested this across the nation. It's 3 elements. You gotta have smarts, skills, and of course, bravery. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna test your smarts, your ability, with some questions. Javi, does Africa have a 4th of July? Yes, they also have a 5th and a 6th as well. All right, Keith, Jim's parents have 3 kids. One is named Nickel, the other is named Dime. What is the 3rd child's name? Jim. His name's Jim, but it's all right. Joel, what month has 28 days? All of them. Good job. We'll run it back. All right, Javi, you're in a race. You just passed the person in 3rd place. What place are you in? No, you're in 3rd. You just passed the person in 3rd place. You're now in 3rd place. It's all right. All right. A plane crashes on the border of the U.S. and Mexico. On which side do you bury the survivors? Say it again. A plane crashes on the border of U.S. and Mexico. On which side do you bury the survivors? That's right. All right, Joel, last question. What does CAL spell? Right. What does a VES spell? Yes. What is VE? Yeah, perfect. Now say them together. It's calves, but it's okay. All right, now let's bring on the skills test. Let's go. All right. It's all right. Nobody's disqualified. This is where we find out who's disqualified. The skills test. Now, fathers, it might have been a while since you've done some of these. So here's what you got to do. You have to do a complete diaper change. So here's what you got to do. You have to take off the old diaper, roll it the correct way, put on the new diaper, but the skills, you got to finish by making the diaper into the trash can, the dirty diaper. If you miss, you got to start over. You have to wipe. You can't forget to wipe. That's important. All right, on your mark. Get set. Go. Come on. Roll it up the correct way. Put on the new diaper. Okay, Javi. Oh! That was perfect. Joel, what's going on? Is Claudia changing all the diapers? What's going on over here? All right, you got to make it, Javi. You got to start over. Hurry, you got to start over. All right, Keith got first place. Whoever gets the last here's out. Oh, you got to keep going. Joel, Javi, keep going. Keith, you're safe for the final round. Come on, gentlemen. All right, Javi, you're out. Gentlemen, can you pick up this table for us? Oh, you got to put on the other diaper. Hurry up. You still got this chance. You can make it right here, Javi. You can get this dub right here. All right, that's it. All right, gentlemen, come get the table, please. All right, Joel, Keith, y'all are the final contestants. RJ, could you come up here, please? Now, the final test is bravery. You got to be brave to be a dad. So you just got to hold this thing for, 5 seconds? Let me see. Proper form here. There we go. So this was its lunch. All right, perfect. That's it. This is a new one. They've only had it for a couple days. All right, let's go on to the next thing. All right. They both did it. Can we give a round of applause for the brave dads? All right, now, rock, paper, scissors. It's going to be rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Ready? Only one round, not 2 out of 3. This is it. You ready? Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. What is the gun? That's Cowboy Keith. Let's try it again. Let's try scissors next time. Let's try. We'll give it one more round. Ready? Here we go. Ready? All right. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. All right, there's our winner right there. Here you go. Congratulations on your battle box. Also, we have one more winner. Come on, Athera. And we have who guessed the right amount. They got it right on the money. Gene, you won yourself some beef jerky. It was 56. You got it correct. Congratulations, dads. Don't forget, nobody's leaving empty-handed. We have Epic Bars, the best beef jerky on the planet, and root beer. Make sure y'all grab those on your way out today. Go ahead and take a look at the screens.
I love about my dad that he always likes to give me hugs, and that he loves me and he tells me that every day. That's what I love about my daddy.
Something I love about you is how disciplined you are, and how when you commit yourself to something, you follow all the way through with it and you do it with excellence.
What I love about you is that how you explain things to me. Like when we're reading the Bible and I'm not understanding something, you'll help make me understand things.
Play some games with me sometimes, and also he can protect us, and he's the one who we can go to the most because mom's usually asleep.
I love that you taught us how to serve and prioritized it always.
He's nice and kind to me and sensitive, and that he loves me very much.
Your little buddy.
Like when you interrupt mom when she's talking about something, you bring up something totally random that you plan on doing in like 5 years because you're excited about it.
You've taught me one simple lesson, and that's to listen. I think it's like the biggest thing that I've always dealt with when I was younger.
I love how you're always pushing me harder to do things, whether it's with school, sports, or my character.
Be the salt and light to everywhere we go and serve everyone around us.
I love you. If you can get soap and put it on your hands and scrub it on your hands.
Soap.
Daddy, what about me makes me proud?
You want to know things about the Bible, and you want to know things about God's Word.
I am so proud of the big heart that you have. You have the biggest heart. You're always smiling. You're always filled with laughter and love.
I am so proud of where you are in life and your pursuit of God and all the things that you've done so far in life.
Being a singer in the choir, you work hard at that. Schoolwork, it takes so much hours. You work hard at that.
Proud of your passion for people and your energy, because you have so much energy.
Angela, I'm proud that God gave you to me as my son, that he gave me an opportunity to raise you. I'm proud of your strong character. I'm proud that you are able to do things on your own.
You love to ask questions. You want to know so many things. And I love the fact that you come to me hoping that I can give you those answers.
Pretty much all your life, you've always been, even from small to now, you've just been inclined to listen to God.
You know, that day when you came to me after your first semester in college and said, I don't want to do pharmacy anymore. I want to do psychology because I want to help people. It's one of the proudest moments.
I'm proud that God gave you to me as my first treasure. I am proud about just how you carry yourself and how much you love God and how you take care of your brother.
I'm proud of your determination and your steadfastness.
You are well organized, and you have a future plan. You know Jesus Christ in such a young age.
Your ability to make so many cookies and cakes and stuff like that I love, but I don't love at the same time.
Happy Father's Day!
Happy Father's Day to all the dads. Isn't it amazing, man, with the incredible power that fathers have over their children just to speak life into them. Fathers, you are special, and I just want to tell you happy Father's Day. And you can't have a Father's Day message without dad jokes. So humor me this morning as I'm going to share with you some of my favorite dad jokes. Here's the first one. A butcher accidentally backed into his meat grinder and got behind in his work. Man. Like, how do you weigh a millennial? How do you weigh a millennial in Instagrams? Why does Snoop Dogg carry an umbrella? For drizzle. I love that one. Okay. Hey, due to quarantine, I'm only telling inside jokes this morning. These are bad, I know. These are bad. But this is my favorite one. I try to come up with a joke about social distancing, but this is as close as I could get. All right, it's over. That was crazy. That's enough father jokes. But man, we honor all dads this morning. And there's one thing that I see in our culture is there is an attack on manhood in our day. We live in a culture that is trying to feminize and redefine what a man is all about and God's plan for men. In his book, Weldon Hardenbrook wrote a book called Missing in Action: Vanishing Manhood in America. In his book, he gives 4 different types of false images that our culture tries to give us of males. The first one is what he calls the macho maniac. This is the cast of the Expendables. It's Jason Statham, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone. These guys deny all their feelings. They never worry. They never apologize. They accomplish the impossible every 8 minutes, and they bully people to do it. The second is what he calls the great pretender. This is Peter Griffin from Family Guy and Homer Simpson. They make fun of everybody. They're obese. They're dim-witted. They're immature. And they build their self-esteem by belittling everyone, especially their families. The third type of manhood, that false image that we get, is the world-class wimp. These guys are so inept. They're constantly being outsmarted by their children, their wives, even their dogs. Nobody takes them seriously. It's kind of like that old sitcom with Al Bundy, Married with Children, or Ray Romano from Everybody Loves Raymond. And there's a fourth image that has really been coming up in the last decade or so. It's called the gender blender. These men are Cameron Tucker or Michael Prickett from Modern Family, or even we have Bruce Jenner, or it was now Caitlyn Jenner. This is a complete reversals of roles and identity in our culture. I just want to let you know, as your pastor, there is an attack on what the Bible calls men of God. But what does it mean to be a man? That's why our culture is constantly attacking manhood, because sometimes we don't even know what manhood is. Are you a man when you're 16 and you can drive, or 18 when you can vote and join the military, or 21 when you can drink? Or are you a man when you get married and have kids? See, our culture knows that most men don't know what it means to be a man, so they tell us what a man is. And you see it throughout the marketing. It's like, hey, drink this beer and you'll be a man. Drive this car, you'll be a man. Watch this movie, you'll be a man. Work out like this, you'll be a man. Have this many relationships and you'll be a man. The lie of the culture is manhood is about consuming and being self-absorbed by yourself. But Genesis 1:27 tells us exactly what a man is. That God created man in his own image. We bear the image of God. Let me tell you about God. God isn't a consumer. He's a creator. And as men, we're called to be creators and cultivators. We are defined as men by the life that comes out of us. We have been given seed by God. That means we have the ability as men to give life. And our life should, man, give life and bring life to every arena of life. Our families, our jobs, our communities. Men are people that create life in others because we bear the image of God. See, the definition of manhood is this, is the aspired and desired definition at which others should arrive. It's looking at someone and saying, wow, that man acts and looks like I want to look like. And that was ultimately the person of Jesus Christ. And in Philippians chapter 2, the Apostle Paul gives a shout out to two men who exemplify the values that every man should aspire to have. The names of these men are Epaphroditus and Timothy. And in the book of Philippians, Paul writes this about these two men. In Philippians 2:20, he says this, that I have no one else like him. And then in Philippians 2:29, he says this of Epaphroditus, to honor men like him. Wouldn't you like the Apostle Paul to write that about you? How awesome would it be if our children and our families would say this about them, that there's nobody else like them, that we should honor them. And this morning, we're going to look at Philippians chapter 2, verse 19 through 30, and we're going to unpack the values that these men possessed and see what caused Paul to write this. The first value that we see here is compassion. We see it in Philippians 2:20. Paul writes this about Timothy. I have no one else like him. Who says this? Who takes, I want you to underline, circle, highlight that word, a genuine interest in your welfare. Paul uses the word genuine to describe his love for others. How would you like to be described as genuine by your friends, by your family? Like that person, that guy right there, that person, they're the real deal. That people can genuinely feel your love and care for them. Let me ask you a question this morning, Freedom Church, to both men and women. How's your compassion meter this morning? Man, pity looks at a need and walks by. Compassion stops and helps and loves others. Compassion is what Jesus showed as he got on the cross and died for our sins. And it was the compassionate caring of the early church, of the needy and the broken, that helped advance the church. The 2nd century philosopher named Aristides, who was not a Christian by any means, he wrote a letter to the Emperor Hadrian in 125 AD about the rise of Christianity and why Christianity was spreading. And this is what he said. They love one another from the widows, and they do not turn away their esteem, and they deliver the orphan from him who treats them harshly. And he who has gives to him who has not without boasting. And when they see a stranger, they take him into their homes and rejoice over him as a very brother. For they do not call themselves brethren after flesh, but brethren after the Spirit of God. They are found in their other writings, which are hard to utter and difficult for one to narrate, which are not only spoken in words, but also, I like this, wrought out in deeds. In other words, Aristides was saying, I can't explain it, but they live out what they believe. These people are the real deal. So let me ask you a question this morning. What would the unbelievers in your life and in our city say about our faith, about your faith? How would they describe the faith of the church? I'm thankful for people who are seeing the faith of Freedom Church in action and compassion. A couple weeks ago, I got an email from Judge Larson, who wrote me an email, and he said this, quote, thank you so much for sharing and helping Williamson County improve its family welfare system. I have heard such positive feedback from parents that participated in the program. In particular, I have heard what a difference Freedom Church has made in the lives of others. And he asked me to give him a call, and he asked me this, if we would be interested in hosting another class to help reunite families that are broken apart and mentor them and care for them. And he says in his court, he's had a couple of different occasions where somebody had come to the Three Strands Ministry that we hosted right before COVID hit. And he said this, that people want to come to church, and he says, I want to be a part of church like that because I don't feel judged, I feel loved, and I feel accepted. I thank God because it's the compassion and caring of others that brings people to Christ. Compassion is what should be driving men of God and women of God. Over the years, I prayed a couple of prayers that have increased my compassion. And I want to challenge you to pray these prayers this morning. But let me be honest with you. These prayers will change your life. It'll change what you dream about. It'll change how you spend your time, your energy, your effort. But I challenge you to pray these prayers. Here are two prayers that have changed my life that I pray constantly. First one is this. Lord, break my heart with the things that break your heart. Say that. Pray that. Lord, break my heart with the things that break your heart. And another prayer I prayed since I was 19 years old is this. Lord, Make me a father to the fatherless. Those are prayers right out of the heart of God. Those prayers have changed what I dream about. My goals. See, this is what I dream about. I dream about transitioning some of the homes in our property to kids that are aging out of the foster care system, that don't have a safety net of a family member. And I pray that one day the church would provide and step in, and we would be the father to the fatherless. I dream that we would continue to mentor and care for the kids of the Williamson Juvenile Detention Center. Do you know that according to statistics of the Department of Corrections, 85% of all youth in prison come from a fatherless home? And if there's one thing that the gospel teaches us, that we should not just father our children, but we should be a father to the fatherless. We should mentor and care for others. And I pray that we would continue to build that relationship, and God would use us in this place. One day I drive through the city many times, and I pray, and I look at the disenfranchised and those who are hurting, and I dream about building a Freedom Center here at Freedom Church where we would be able to teach English as a second language. We would teach job skills. We would be able to bring people in who need a little bit place to stay just for a while, to give them the start, that we would be the hands and the feet of Jesus, that we would be a church that never sleeps. These are the things that keep me up at night. This is why I dream. I believe that God wants us to be a church of compassion, not just to hear sermons, but to live out our faith. Because it's this type of faith that will change the world. And that's what Paul commended Timothy for. A man of compassion. Once again, let me ask you the question this morning, Freedom Church. Where's your compassion meter at? How much do you love people? Because you cannot love God without loving people. He will give you a love for the broken. Second thing I see in this passage of godly quality is selflessness. He was selfless. Look at this, verse 20 and 21. I have no one else like him who takes a genuine interest in your welfare. For everyone looks at his own interests, selfishness, not those of Jesus Christ. Being selfless is the opposite of being prideful. See, pride produces selfishness, but selflessness produces humility. And Timothy, according to Paul, was always looking not after his own needs, but the needs of Jesus Christ. C.S. Lewis said this, that humility is not thinking less of yourself, but thinking about yourself less. And let's be honest. We all naturally think about ourselves first. Let me prove it to you. If I said, somebody in this room right now, they got a booger. You know, you're not going to be looking at your neighbor's booger. You're going to be looking, is it me? Is it me? Or if you take a picture, and there's a picture of everyone, you always look at whose picture first. Your picture first, right? And if your picture's good, who cares if your kid's going crazy, or your wife has her hair closed, and she's doing something, you post, it's on Instagram. That's what you post, because you want to look good first. So how do we live a selfless life? This is what Paul says. You look at the interests of Jesus. And the word Paul uses here is to spy for look, is to spy, is to plot. We are to intentionally look for ways to be like Jesus. In other words, we need to ask the question, what would Jesus do? I know it sounds cliche-ish, we've heard it all our lives, but that question comes straight out of this passage in how Paul lived his life, that Paul looked to do what Jesus did. In every situation, he looked to do what Jesus did. So how different would the world be that if in every situation we asked ourselves, what would Jesus do? In this argument with my spouse right now, how would Jesus respond? He would let her know, right? No, he wouldn't. What would Jesus do if his coworker insulted him? He'd throw punch him? No, he wouldn't. What would Jesus do with this needy neighbor who always comes and wants to take up all your time, and you just want to relax and they just want to talk and talk and talk? What would Jesus do? What would Jesus do with his time and his money and his resources? The next value I see in this passage is this. He was consistent. There's consistency. Look at verse 22. Timothy proved himself. He has served with me in the work of the gospel. Prove here means a test of character, means integrity. That means over the long haul, he showed himself to be a person worth trust. A big personality will make a great first impression, but success over the long haul is built on character. We know people who make big promises. They start off hard. They do the best that they can, but then after a while, they just kind of wane down. You can't trust them. You know them. They say, oh, I'm going to help you this Saturday. Don't worry. And they'll call you Friday right before, oh, They make the biggest promises, but they let you down the most. They lack consistency. Let me tell you this, consistency is what's going to determine how great your life becomes. Life is not a sprint, it's a marathon. I like what Rick Warren said one time, that we can overestimate what we do in 10 years and underestimate what we do with a lifetime of consistency. We raise our kids one day, one Bible study, one compliment, one word of blessing, one game at a time. We build our marriages, one compliment, one act of selflessness, one day, one moment at a time. And it's that consistency. It's not just doing well for a month or 2 or 2 months or even a year. It's like Eugene Peterson said this. It's long obedience in the same direction, consistently walking, consistently moving, consistently following God. And one day you look at your life and the consistency of your life displays the glory of God. We want overnight success, but God demands long obedience. The fourth thing I see that we see with value in these men was this, is commitment. Look what it says. Paul says this now of Epaphroditus in verse 25, who is also your messenger, whom I sent to take care of my needs. For he longs for all of you in his distress because you heard he was ill. Indeed, he was ill. Look what it says, and he almost died. But God had mercy on him. See, let me give you the context. Paul's in prison in Rome. And the people of Philippi, they took up an offering for Paul to cover his expenses and take care of his needs. But to get from Philippi to Rome, it was 800 miles in rough terrain in a difficult moment. And they're looking for somebody to volunteer in the dream team for that assignment. Who's taking that? 800 a year, 8 weeks on a camel. Who's going to volunteer 6 weeks of their lives? Epaphroditus says, I will. I'm committed. Epaphroditus volunteered, and when he got there, he got sick. It was life-threatening. But here's the thing about Epaphroditus. He was persistent in spite of the pain, in spite of the challenges. He gets the offering to Paul because his number one goal was to advance the gospel. See, I love what Ken Blanchard says in his book, 1 Minute Manager. He says this, there's a difference between interest and commitment. When you're interested in doing something, you only do it when it is convenient. Ouch. But when you're committed to something, you accept no excuses. Can I tell you, it doesn't happen often. But every once in a while, throughout history, there's a man, there's a woman that wholly commits their life to the gospel. And they change the world. And people write about him like Timothy and Epaphroditus. A man like David Livingstone, the legendary missionary who was known as Africa's greatest missionary. He was fought to abolish slavery. He was a medical doctor. He was a man of God. Let me tell you a little bit about Livingstone. When Livingstone was growing up, he would sit on his father's knee, and his father would tell him stories of medical missionaries around the world. And when young David heard these stories, his heart would start pounding with a sense of calling. And he says, Daddy, I want to grow up and I want to be a man like that. Livingstone got on his knees one day and he said this, prayed this prayer that changed his life. Send me anywhere, only go with me. Lay any burden on me, only sustain me. Sever any ties but the ties that bind me to your service and your heart. He goes off to seminary. He gets his degree in medicine, and he goes to Africa. And when he gets to Africa, he pens in his journal these words: the haunting specter of the smoke of 1,000 villages under the African sun has been seared into my heart. And he goes and he finds the famous Muffet family, the missionaries there. He falls in love with their daughter Mary, and they fall in love, they have a family, and they start off in this incredible medical missionary journey to change all of Africa. But as their family began to grow, sickness began to maul his family. His children became sick and died. It was so bad, he had to look to his wife Mary and says, Mary, it's too tough here. Would you take the children back, and I'll finish this out, and I will see you soon. You know what soon was? It wasn't 5 weeks. It wasn't 5 days. It wasn't 5 months. It was 5 years till he saw Mary again. I'm not justifying it. I'm not condoning it. I'm not exalting it. I'm simply stating what it was. 5 years till he saw his wife and children again. But yet they stayed madly in love because over months they would exchange some of the most romantic, heartfelt letters. And the next time Livingston saw his wife, he was a different looking man. He had 27 bouts with malaria. His face had been so burnt to a crisp, it looked like leather due to the African sun. One day he was out and a lion attacked him thanks to a thick coat. It didn't kill him, but it disfigured his shoulder, that he was just the shell of the man that he used to be. One day he was outside and traveling. He ran into a branch. He lost an eye and it scratched up his face. So when Livingston came to see his wife again, he wasn't the same man that she used to be. She was still beautiful, but he was different. The toll and the commitment of the plan of God had changed his life. And as he hobbled back to the house, he was so excited to see his wife and so excited to tell his dad the stories firsthand, what he'd only been told third hand. But as he got there, just days before, they had buried his father, and Livingston's heart was broken. As he tried to transition back to the life he knew, one day he looked at his wife, Mary, and said, "Honey, the haunting specter of the smoke of 1,000 villages is still burning in my heart. I have to go back." And he went back. He says, Mary said, "It's good that I continue raising the kids." So she raised the kids, and when the kids were grown, Mary once again joined him in Africa, where she was born as a missionary's daughter. But the worst had happened. The thing that he had dreaded, the very day she set foot on African soil again, she contracted a disease that her body couldn't fight again. A few days later, they buried her within days. He stood by his grave, one onlooker said, and he wept and wept bitterly. Somebody heard him weeping so loudly and crying out, and he prayed this prayer: "My Jesus, my King, my life, my all, I again consecrate my life to thee. I shall place no value in anything I possess or in anything I do, except in relation to thy kingdom and thy service." And after that prayer, he said the words of the Lord came to him, that he had remembered all those lives, as, "Lo, I am with you always, even into the end of the age." And Livingston went out in his commitment to take the gospel to the continent of Africa. And historians tell us that as he was there, he went back to his village, and when he got there, he found out that somebody had played a dirty, cruel trick on him. They stole all his medication. And his body was so mauled and so broken down that only the medication would bring relief to his body, as he was in pain, groaning. Unable to find medication, he got on his knees and he cried out to God, and he said this. He said, "God, you promised that you'd be with me always to the end of the age." And he said, "God, I need that medicine." As he finished praying that prayer, he saw someone walking towards him. It wasn't an African, it was a white man. And he says the famous words, "David Livingston, I presume?" And he said, "Yes, I'm David Livingston." The man said, "I am Henry M. Stanley. And I've been commissioned by the papers to write a story about your life." He said, "Mr. Livingston, I want you to know two things about me before we get started. I'm the biggest swaggering atheist on the face of the earth. Don't try to convert me, because it won't work. And number two, I have the medication for you that someone sent." 4 months later, the biggest swaggering atheist on the face of the earth became a Christian on African soil. He wrote the 2-volume biography titled Livingston of Africa by Henry M. Stanley, one of the most beautifully, brilliantly written autobiographies if you've ever written. If you've never read that book, read that book. Your faith will be inspired and challenged. As time went on, Livingston got so weak he couldn't hardly walk, so they would carry him on a stretcher from village to village to preach the gospel. One day he got so sick, he asked his national brothers to take him back so home he couldn't even hardly breathe. And they brought him home. And when they brought him home, he asked him, "Would you put me in a position to pray?" So they put him on his knees to pray. And when he would pray, they would say, it was such a holy time. The presence of the Lord would come, that they felt like it would be blasphemous to hear this conversation between Livingston and God, because it was so intimate. So they left the room. After several minutes, somebody came to talk to Livingston. He was still on his knees. They said, "Wait." Then half an hour went by. They said, "He's still praying." An hour went by. He said, "He's still praying." Finally, somebody concerned about that he was weak, they went over there to check on his well-being. They grabbed him by the shoulder. They shook him, and he fell over. He was dead. He died the way he lived, in the presence of God, committed to the Lord. Commitment to God. The fifth thing, value I want you to see from these men is this. It's courage. Look at verse 29. Welcome him in the Lord with great joy. With great joy. Honor men like him because he almost died for the work of Christ. Underline this word, risking his life to make up for the help that you could not give me. Risking in the Greek literally means this, hazarding his life. It's a gambling term. It means to stake everything you got on a dice roll. Epaphroditus risked his life and almost died for the work of Christ to make up for the help the Philippians couldn't give Paul, and he wanted to get help to the Apostle Paul. See, in life, there's really two kinds of movies that are played in my household. One is the one Jennifer and I watched together. The other movie is the type of movie I watch by myself. Jennifer loves chick flicks, and you've heard me say this. Here's the thing about chick flicks. I'm nothing against them, but they're boring. So predictable. How are they going to fall in love? Like a Hallmark movie. Like everybody knows what's going to happen. They're going to kiss at the end. They're going to fight in the beginning. They're going to fall in love. So predictable. Then there are real movies. There's what I call action movies. This is Braveheart, Gladiator, Rocky. And then even my favorite movie, one of my favorite scenes of all time is that scene from Braveheart where William Wallace, played by Mel Gibson, he paints his face blue. He's riding on a horse and he says this, many of you would trade all these days, I could hear him say it, just for one day to come back and tell your enemies, they may take our lives, but they may never take our freedom. And you're like, yes, you want to paint your face. You want to fight your guts out. You want to be out there. Let me tell you, there's a lot of men that live chick flick lives. There's a lot of Christians that live chick flick lives. It's predictable. It's boring. But yet God's calling us to live an action life. A life that would change the world. A life that changes everything. You know, so many Christians, not just men, are bored and they're unfulfilled. They don't have anything to live for, no challenges, no goals bigger than themselves. They've lost the spirit of adventure that they had when they were young. They aren't risking anymore. When you stop risking, you start dying. See, let me tell you, as God's people, as men and women, we were created for more than just cheering on a sports team or decorating a house or conquering a video game. God has made us for one thing, and that is to display his glory. And let me say this. If you aren't doing anything that scares you and is causing you to risk, you aren't living. Here's what I've known in following Jesus. When you follow Jesus, it's always going to take you out of your comfort zone into the faith zone. Look at Abraham. He left everything he knew to follow God. Daniel was there in the face of a lion. David was in front of Goliath. The disciples left everything and were eventually opponents to Rome. So my question to you this morning in your walk with God, how many risks are you taking in your relationship with God? Some of the reasons that we find faith in church sometimes unfulfilling is because it doesn't cost us. There's no risk to us. We are living chick flick lives when God is saying, I want you to walk in a Braveheart calling that I have for your life that'll make a difference in a city, in a community, and not just your family, but the families of others, because you are my child. You were created in the image of God to display the glory of God in your day. And let me tell you about this. This type of faith will constantly put you in awkward positions. It'll constantly cause you like, wow, Lord, you want me to do that? You want me to write a check like that? You want me to say that? You want me to get up on my couch and stop watching Netflix and do that? Plato wasn't right about a lot, but he was right when he said this, that the saga of a nation is the saga of its families written large. In our day, our nation is in as much turmoil as it's ever been. And it's not going to turn around morally on its own. Politics won't bring solutions to our problems. I don't care if you're riding a donkey or an elephant, if you lean to the left or to the right. Education can't fix a culture. Only Jesus can bring the change that we need to the core. And God calls us to share Jesus with everyone. And sometimes those conversations are going to cause us to risk and be courageous. It's going to be pretty difficult when we get to heaven. You've heard me say this and explain to the Apostle Paul when we're all in the Bema Seat judgment and we're all looking at that. They go, why didn't you share the gospel, man? Can you imagine Paul up in heaven asking you, hey, how come you had a hard time doing this? Were you threatened by prison? No. Was there a lot of persecution? No. Did they say they were going to torture you, cut off your head? No. Well, why didn't you share with the people around you? It was awkward. That's going to be the biggest awkward conversation of all eternity. To me, one of the most tragic verses in the Bible is when Paul says of Timothy, I have no one like him. Timothy and Epaphroditus were just ordinary guys, yet 2,000 years later, we are talking about them. This is what I want to challenge you. Live your life for something that is bigger than yourself. Live with these qualities, these values. And you might not be able to change the whole world, but you can change one person's world. If you change one person's world, they'll change another person's world. David Livingstone, at the end of his life, he was heartbroken because he was so heartbroken that slavery, which he wanted to stop, was still going on. But that area, little did he know, all those prayers, 4 years later after he died, slavery was stopped from the part of Africa where he was working at. The only other thing about Livingstone in his first missionary journey especially, he was so heartbroken, he felt like he was a failure. He had gone and he had preached and he had preached and he had preached and he had one convert, just one convert, and his convert went back to a lifestyle of polygamy. But this convert got so changed and so transformed afterwards that he wrote the Bible in a native tongue that now still is being proliferated in that area. What I'm saying is this. In the moment that you're living this extraordinary life, it seems really ordinary. Sometimes it looks like you're not seeing the results. You're not seeing these flashlights and these fireworks, but we're consistent. Gene, it's every week you get in that class and those kids get on your nerves and you love them and you care for them and you're the best teacher you can, that you're making a difference that you don't even know. It says you parent your kids and teach them Bible stories. When it gets difficult and it's the little things I'm saying of acting these little values day after day, moment after moment that make an eternal difference. So let's pray that God would begin to give us a desire to live this type of life. Whether you're a man, whether you're a woman, whether it doesn't matter. You might say, Pastor B, I want these godly values in my life. Would you pray for me? Just raise your hand. Whether you're watching online, whether you're here this morning, just pray. Just raise your hand and say, God, I want to exemplify these values. Lord, help us to be courageous. Help us to be consistent. Help us to be committed. Help us to be people of compassion. Help us to be selfless, Lord. Lord, sometimes we don't see it. Even Livingstone didn't see all these things. But Lord, we are committed to making the name of Jesus great. Lord, help us to look after the interests of Jesus. If you've never put your faith in Jesus and you're watching online, you're here this morning, say, Jesus, I need you. I know you're the only life. Lord God, you're the only one that can give me life. Just say this prayer. Say, Jesus, I admit that I need you. I believe that you died for me. And I confess you as my Lord. Love you, Jesus. Amen. Man, thank you for being here this morning. I want to remind you that, there's 4 ways to give. You can give online. You can give if you're here this morning. You can go back to the box back there, or you can mail a check. You can text to give. But I want to thank you for your faithfulness. I want to thank you for your generosity. And thank you because of all that you're giving and all of your commitment. We're able to take the gospel and we're able to make a difference. I'm even thankful for the conversations that we're even having right now with the city and the county of how once this what lifts, and even in the midst of the pandemic, how can we continue to be the arms of Jesus? Happy Father's Day. You're dismissed, and there are some gifts for you in the back. And if you're here, if you're not here, if you're watching online and you want some great beef jerky or root beer, man, drive down here quick in half an hour, pick up some beef jerky because it is epic. I think we got bison beef jerky, we got deer, man, tiger, not tiger, that's illegal. You can go into Carol Baskin might have that, not us. But another dad joke, and we're dismissing with that. Love you. God bless.